How's everybody doing? So we'll start in 2 minutes, but boy, if you lived in the DMV area last night, did you catch just the crazy storms that were taking place? That was absolutely insane. Did anybody hear that? Feel free to take yourself off mute.
Yes. Yeah, it was a little bit scary.
Very scary. Yeah, very scary. We lost power, I think 2 or 3 times for quite some time. It was just, yeah, monsoon's a good way to describe it. It was like, it's just insane.
Yeah, it was real bad over this way in Southeast too.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I was wondering what it was like downtown.
I hope it rained again. My grass needed.
That's true. That's true. They got it all in one shot. Let's see. We got 1 minute. We'll start at 2:35, and then we'll get rolling here. We got a bunch of people coming in. Good number.
No.
Well, about a dozen or so on YouTube as well, so that's cool. All right, it's 2:35. So for now, I'm going to just mute everyone again, just so we're not getting a lot of background noise. That can be a little distracting. And then I just want to say welcome to our town hall for June 5th. It's really great to see this working and get everybody together. It's been quite a learning curve to be doing this over the last couple of months. And I feel like it's pulled us a lot closer together. Feel free to throw in the chat what your latest TV or movie obsession is. We're still working our way through The Last Kingdom. I think we're now in season 4, which will bring us current once we finish it. So pretty cool story about how, I guess, Vikings or Danes came to the UK and kind of what that was like. So 2 cultures clashing is really quite something. And otherwise, just been a week of weather, I guess. Like we got some warm weather here in DC this week, upwards of 80s, into the 90s for a few days. I think it hit 94, 95 at one point in time. So I don't know how that competes with Tennessee. So if you guys want to throw it in the chat, and even New York, I know had some very unseasonable hot weather as well. So let us know. Throw that stuff in the chat if you can. Just want to, start off with the Vespers portion of our meeting, and just as we continue to reflect as a community about how COVID has impacted our organization on a personal level, both for the people that we support as well as our team members that are out in the field. So right now we have 9 people we support that have tested positive. So that number is actually going down, which is good, but still it's a situation. It can be serious and it can turn serious very quickly. And we have 1 individual that we support that is hospitalized. But the news on that individual is that they are doing well and stable. So that's a positive thing. And then in terms of, we're also doing testing in Tennessee. So we're testing 30 people, and that includes Harlan Morris residents, as well as a couple homes that we support individuals in Tennessee. So we're waiting to hear back on that situation and if there's any positives that come out of that. And then for staff, we have 14 that have tested positive between DC and Virginia. Right now, the majority of those are Virginia with 13. And the good positive news is 0 hospitalizations right now, which is good. So, the number is flattened, it's stabilized, but still for every person that is tested positive, it can turn very serious very quickly. And so our thoughts and prayers need to be with them. And of course, we continue to remember those staff that have passed away due to COVID, as well as just tragedy, and hold them in our thoughts and prayers as well. So in DC, we're transitioning from sheltering in place to 12-hour shifts. in order to lessen the number of people that are coming, staff coming into homes. So they're working 12-hour shifts, specifically for the most medically fragile. And 13 of our homes are not on modified staff. So that's a good sign. We are making progress there in terms of going from all homes sheltering in place to now, it sounds like 13 homes sheltering in place, and then the rest with modified 12-hour schedules. And then with that, staff are testing prior to starting a new rotation or at other intervals based on the service line they're supporting. And I just want to remind you, I've been, this number probably grew since last week, but in the DC, Virginia area alone, more than 400 people with intellectual and developmental disabilities tested positive, which is just remarkable. And our percentage of that for St. John's is low, but again, for every individual, it can be life-threatening, life-changing, obviously. So. And I just, again, want to give a special shout out and recognition to our heroes that are on the front line, our direct support professionals and their managers that are providing direct service. And just thank you all for the extra mile you've gone, the extra steps you've taken, the selflessness of time away from family and your loved ones, whether that is when you were sheltering in place or even working your 12-hour shifts. It's more time away from your families. And we just, we thank you for that. We thank you for your selflessness, your sacrifice, and your willingness to care for people that you support and that we support as an organization. So you just are our ambassadors. You are our mission in action, really. And we just are very grateful for you. So if we could, let's just, as we normally do, take a moment of silence, just in reflection in prayer for those who are struggling on a personal level or have experienced loss as a result of COVID. So if you would just join with me now. Thank you for doing that. Let's see, I just lost my notes, so let me pull those back up. So as always, we also want to celebrate the good news and things that are happening in our programs. Today is #Frontline Friday, and today we celebrate and highlight Elizabeth Miner, who's a client care specialist in Ithaca, New York. So she's working in our emergency shelter, just for those of you that may not be as familiar with the Ithaca programs. And probably one of the things we need to do in these meetings over time is start highlighting programs and add that to our agenda. She's been with us for 8 months, which is awesome. And so we are very grateful, Elizabeth, for your efforts. Again, just how you have gone the extra mile. Check out #Frontline Friday. I don't know if Roy is on the call. I know he had some meetings prior. Roy, if you are here, can you take yourself off mute? If you would, either Roy or Billy Joe, I think, if you guys are here, would you be able to take yourself off mute just to say a couple words?
Hey, Alan, it's Roy here.
Hey, Roy, thank you.
Yep, you're welcome. I'm glad I'm glad I didn't miss it. So yes, Elizabeth has worked for us for about 8 months. She started working during the cold weather months, which is the most difficult time to work in a homeless shelter. It gets very busy at that time, and there's a lot more people in shelter. She has started out as a part-time worker and really has worked her way into a full-time position. I don't know that Elizabeth is here right now because she works 2 jobs, and she's probably at her other job working right now. She's a very hard worker. You know, many of you may or may not know much about the shelter life or what goes on here in Ithaca, but you know, we deal with people who are, you know, it's our mission to help people live their best lives, and oftentimes, or most times, people that are homeless are not living their best lives and are not having their best days most of the time. And Elizabeth just does a tremendous job of with love, care, and compassion to help people through their difficult times. And She's a very hard worker, does a tremendous job, and is become an integral part of our team here in Ithaca, working on the second shift. So I applaud Elizabeth and all the hard work that she does, and thank her very much for all the hard work. So thanks, Elizabeth. I don't know if Billy Joe's there, if she wants to say anything to add to that, but.
Billy Joe was here. Her phone's here. She's on mute though.
No.
Billy Joe, you want to take
Okay.
yourself off mute if you can hear? If not, we'll keep moving forward. All right. Well, we'll give a shout out again. Thanks to Elizabeth. It looks like she might also go by Liz, but great job. Thank you so very much for all that you're doing. And be sure to give her some love on #Frontline Friday on Facebook and our other social media platforms. But we're super excited to just be able to celebrate her today. So thank you. And then, this is miraculous, frankly. The fact that New York in and of itself has not had any positive tests for COVID is incredible. So we're really excited about that. Same with Delaware, and so far, same with Tennessee. So again, the virus has concentrations in different places, impacted certain places more than others. We know that, but I really know that the reason why our numbers aren't higher in DC and Virginia, and the reason why numbers are where they are with negatives in our other locations, is because of all of your hard work. It's because of what you've done from a social distancing standpoint. It's the protocols you put in place and the restrictions that you put in place. And we're just really grateful for that. So thank you for doing that. You are keeping everyone safe, and we're going to just keep pushing hard to get through this. And then it's interesting, Tennessee and Virginia and DC and Delaware are having discussions right now about how and what community-based services will look like in the new normal. The National Association of State Directors have discussed developing new and different service lines that will support people to engage in the community without large groups. And the industry is moving towards a more customized day instead of the traditional large group day habilitation services. So more to come on that. There's an update that Precious sent along as she's kind of keeping really close tabs on what is happening in the various states. We do know that there's a tension that we are managing now, some places more than others. Tennessee is pretty much almost all open, but they've reopened very quickly. And our staff are managing that tension of how do they keep the people that they support as safe as possible in the midst of that. New York is starting to reopen as well and go back to closer to normal operations. So, right now, DC and Virginia, we're probably a little bit still more restricted than other places, but we will be reopening soon too. So, we're gonna always stay in touch with local officials, local funders, because they're providing us the on-the-ground guidance in how to proceed relative to our operations, relative to testing, relative to all those protocols. So we are staying really closely aligned with the local oversight agency guidance. And then also just, this is an interesting thing that Precious also threw out, we're ramping up our ability to ensure that telehealth appointments for the people we support are a meaningful experience. We're acquiring more personal health devices to ensure that we're able to provide professionals with as much triage information as possible so that medical professionals can make appropriate recommendations for optimal health. So it's really, really, one of the things that is remarkable, and I think just the best way to say it is just admirable is how our team is just taking it to new levels. We have always had a really strong quality assurance program. We've always had a very strong health and safety program. COVID has challenged us to get to a new level, and we are doing that. And just very grateful to those efforts because we're seeing the benefit of that, and we're seeing the efforts pay off. So I just keep encouraging everybody to the best of your ability in your personal life. Please practice social distancing. I want to thank you for what you are doing. And also certainly when we are supporting people, we are still wearing masks. We're still in that space of needing it to be as safe environment as possible. So many of the people that we serve generally from a population standpoint are at high risk. And so even though we've come so far and we've not been as impacted as other providers and other organizations, things could change as we reopen. So we continue to proceed with caution and ask that you practice as much care and diligence as you can as well. Moving into HR and health and safety. So June is LGBTQ month, and throughout the course of the month, we will be highlighting our programs as an example that support LGBTQ individuals, as well as our fellow team members. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. And we'll be providing you with resources on how you can learn how to be more supportive of the LGBTQ community. And we're excited to be involved in that space and an affirming organization. And then we are into open enrollment in about a week. And so that's a big deal. And I just want to remind you, if you haven't yet, please double check your info on ADP. That's really important. We got to have the correct emails, the correct phone numbers, correct beneficiaries. It is an active and open enrollment process. You have to make elections. And you certainly can do that online. And then you can, if we don't do that online, within about a week, we're going to start calling you and helping you walk through it. Not to call you to penalize you or be punitive about it, but just to help you. We know everyone is juggling a lot right now. There's a lot of stressors naturally, and we don't want this to be a stressor, but we do want you to be involved. It's really, really important. We have a special guest today, and I'm going to turn things over to him in a second. This is Raymond Chan. Raymond is the managing partner of Insure Market. They are one of our partners in working through open enrollment. And so Ray has unmiked himself, which is great. And I think with the assistance of Ryan, we are going to be able to kind of walk through some things, right, Ray? Why don't you introduce yourself, Ray, and kind of share your thoughts on open enrollment, and I will try to work with Ryan and empower him to share his screen.
Okay. How's everyone doing? And it's open enrollment that time of year again. So you want to make sure you're at least logging into the system to at least review your benefits, make sure that everything that you want for 2020 to 2021 is updated in the ADP system. Now you can still continue to use our call center, which is the number that we gave you last year. We'll produce that number again for you. It's 1-866-967-4210. I know that it's hard for you to probably jot that down as I said it, so I'll put it in the chat here. So you guys will all have it. Is the call center number. So if you want to talk to somebody instead of just logging into the system, an enroller can help you through open enrollment, and they can make changes on your behalf. Your changes will all be recorded. So if you make a change with a call center person, they'll put it into the system for you. You can still make changes after you talk to a counselor. You can call back in to make more changes if you change your mind on what you want for 2020 to 2021. But we have a video to show you to kind of just highlight some of the new things to look at for the next plan year. And I'll let Ryan play that if he can.
Hey, Ryan, just double check. I think I just allowed you to share your screen.
You did. Yep. I will go ahead and do that now.
Thank you.
Just a second.
And if I do need to make you host, just let me know.
No, it should be good. Can everyone see my screen now?
Yes.
All right. I'll go ahead and play the video.
Ryan,
Cool.
thank you for saying that. Ray, is there anything further that you'd want to be able to mention while you've got folks here?
So we'll make sure everyone gets a copy of the updated guide. It's not ready yet, but we'll make sure that once it is ready, that it's going to be sent out to everyone so you can see all the plan details, the new costs, and once you're ready to make updates, to log into the system. And you can also call the call center number 2 to get those things done for you.
Awesome. So just a refresh, you've got the link to the video that just got put in the chat. We'll also put that up on our staff updates portion of the website. We'll also put the link on TheraP and in ADP, and then you will be getting the updated guide as well. And so we want to make sure that this goes as smooth as possible for you. The instructions are step-by-step. I think that this is probably the best we've ever had it. And I think we've got a strong team to help in support of it. And our goal is that this is good for you. So we want you to take advantage of the benefits that we're offering. And if you have questions at any point in time, you can call the call center. They're happy to walk through things with you. And then you can also reach out to our own HR team at SJCS HR at sjcs.org. Sorry, that always confuses me for some reason. Anyway, Ray, thank you so much for joining. And I don't know if there's anything from anyone from HR that needs to say anything, but again, just reinforcing that it's a short time period, right? It's 1 week essentially. So we need you to pay really good attention to this and make it a priority in order to ensure its success for you.
One more thing to add is that our enrollers, if they see that you haven't logged in yet throughout open enrollment, they're going to give you a text message reminder if your mobile phone is in ADP system to let you know that, hey, you haven't gone through open enrollment yet, make sure you log in, and they'll send you a link if you forget the site to go to, and they'll also prompt you to call the call center number as well. So if you've gone through open enrollment on day 1, you probably won't get that call, but if let's say it's Friday and there's 2 more days left for open enrollment, they're going to definitely give you a call and make sure that you're okay.
Cool, Ray. Now I did see a question just pop up. Okay, so Ryan, thank you for the link. And then what if you participate in Cobra and cannot get info through ADP? Rich, I don't know if you have an answer for that, but certainly, Laura, we can work offline with you.
For
Sorry,
specific
Al,
questions.
Oh, go ahead.
For specific questions, if you have something pertaining to your own benefits, I would wait to connect on a one-on-one basis so that you can get more details that are more specific to your situation. So just hold up on private questions. I would just wait until you can have a one-on-one experience.
Hi, this is Rich Bennett. And just to add, if there's anything you need, not really related to open enrollment, but anything going on right now, please reach out to HR. Email me, rbennett@sjcs.org, or a member of the HR team, and we can walk through with you and try to figure out what's going on.
Yeah, for sure. So Ryan, if you could pop into the chat, the SJCS HR email address would be great, as well as you could put Rich's email in there. And George had a question, will there be general communication to staff about open enrollment? Yes, for sure. We will be putting it out on all channels. So we'll make sure that you see that. We'll put it on staff updates. We'll put it out via email. We'll put it out on TheraP. We'll put it out on ADP. So we will definitely put that out there to make sure that people are aware of that. So more to come on that. All right. And then I know this came up last week and I kind of gave an unofficial answer. So I want to give you an official answer right now. And before I do, Ray, thank you so much for joining. I don't know, he may have dropped off already, but Ray, thank you for coming in and doing that today. Time off. So the question last week was asked, are we back to normal relative to being able to use time? Because I know that during COVID, when things first broke out, we had to pull back on and put restrictions on the use of time off. And so I'm happy to say those restrictions have been lifted. That being said, so this is, let's call it phase 1. Okay, so phase 1 is that it's still location by location. based on the local guidance and the capacity of that location. And so as before, you've got to put your requests into your supervisor, but we are out of any kind of like blackout period, if you will, that we're removing the restrictions that nobody can take time. And we're also rolling time over. So whatever PTO is not used because of COVID through the end of the year, that will roll over. That being said, we do want you to use your time. So feel free to start putting your requests in, talk to your supervisor. And again, those decisions will be made at a local level based on local guidance, as well as the capacity in those particular locations. But happy to report that the restriction that was in place has been lifted, and we're essentially into kind of phase 1 of use of PTO and time off. So really appreciate how everyone flexed with that and how everyone is given and worked extra hard during this time. I know it's been very, very difficult. And then again, just my ongoing cautious and conservative reminder, stay in touch with your supervisor, especially now as things reopen. If you think that you may have been exposed, you need to call your supervisor as soon as possible. You need to follow through with the local protocols in place, and then you need to follow through with our protocols relative to return to work. So we appreciate everybody's cooperation on that. Everyone's done an amazing job. We're still in that phase, and probably realistically will be until we have a good vaccine that is scalable, right? That can literally ensure that almost everybody can get vaccinated. I saw one study that basically they believe that 7 out of 10 Americans could potentially end up contracting coronavirus. Now we know much more people recover than pass away. We know that, in terms of hospitalization rates and fatality rates, those are very alarming. So we just want everyone to stay as safe as possible during this time and stay in contact with your supervisor. On to finance, another big topic that we've been talking about for the last few weeks that has come up is hazard pay. And so I wanted to kind of address that with you and kind of tell you where we are at right now and what we are doing, okay? So this is kind of how we're kind of working through this. So in your next paycheck, if you're a direct service worker in Tennessee, in DC, or in Virginia, okay, you are going to receive a flat rate lump sum, and it is only a first step stopgap. This is the source of the hazard pay is the PPP loans that we receive for those areas. They can only be used in very specific ways. Towards payroll is one of them. So we're happy to be able to use it for that purpose of hazard pay. We had a calculation ready to go that was going to roll out for this next paycheck. Then the House and Senate passed a new bill amendment for the CARES Act, which changed kind of the rules surrounding the use of the funds, both on the number of weeks that they could be utilized, as well as the forgivable nature of it and the percentage of the use. So lots of changes that we have to look at, and the president hasn't signed it yet to my knowledge, although he may have today and I just missed it, but it's on his desk if he hasn't signed it already. And so that kind of honestly messed up our calculation. And so we have to have that bill go into action. We have to kind of then see all the ins and outs of it and redo the calculation so that moving forward, we can make sure that hazard pay is appropriate for individuals that are direct service workers in those locations of Tennessee, Virginia, and DC. And so initially, you're going to receive, again, just a flat rate. This is a stopgap, okay? This is us wanting to do something for employees in those areas and be able to move things forward, okay? It is not what you will be receiving moving forward, okay? So just, I wish I could have more clarity on that, but that's the clarity I have, and so I'm offering that to you right now, just as an explanation. And again, if you have questions on that, feel free to put them in the chat or at SJCS HR. Now, let's say you are in New York or you're in Delaware. we are working on the plan for you. So we have another source of funds for that, and we are waiting for those funds to drop. And then the plan is to roll out hazard pay for you as well. So we haven't forgotten about you. We're not leaving you out of the equation. It is in process. It's just taking a little longer than the other because of the availability of the funds. Okay, so again, if you have any questions on that, please let us know either in the chat box or at SJCS HR. I saw another question come in, so just pausing to answer that. With the time off restriction lift, will consideration be given to hiring freeze being lifted as well as to support further capacity limitations? I think that the consideration is there. The process is that Rich really needs to sign off on any new hires. And so the best way would be to reach out to him, talk with your supervisor, and then collectively reach out to Rich. But yeah, I mean, certainly we have had consideration, and we've had to make some hires throughout the course of this time anyway. So we did put a hiring freeze in place, but we are, you know, I'm not saying we're reopening that or lifting that, but what I'm saying is if you have a critical need that you think needs to be filled, then I would encourage you to reach out to Rich directly and talk and your supervisor and discuss that. And potentially action could come from that, or potentially they may disagree and say no. So that's just kind of where we stand at this point in time. And then I do just want to kind of keep mentioning that Rich is also heading up kind of our task force on looking at the analysis of our different service lines as things start to reopen around us, and looking at whether we are going to fully reopen, you know, state by state, location by location, looking at service lines that may not be profitable and that we may be subsidizing. We're really at a place where we can't afford to subsidize service lines that are losing money on an ongoing basis. And so Rich has really been charged with bringing the recommendations to the table. He's worked with the leadership team and done really a deep dive on each of those service lines. He has an initial draft of recommendations. The leadership team is reviewing those. And then after that, decisions and moving forward, and what do we have to pull back on and what do we have to expand on will be made. And so those obviously decisions would be discussed with you at the appropriate time. But just wanted to let you know we are kind of coming to the last phase of that project. We had hoped that we would kind of be having things a little bit more definitive when we last spoke. The reality is just the capacity to do that deep dive, the level of detail and the time it takes, you know, required a little bit of a delay. But I can honestly say that this level of analysis has not been done probably in a handful of years, certainly during my time here at St. John's. Probably my guess is over the last 5-6 years from an organization-wide perspective. So really grateful to Rich, really grateful for those that have worked with him. Very difficult, like just getting into the details. It's not exactly the most fun work at times, just because you're really going through a lot of details. So really appreciate that, and more to come on that as we keep moving through that project. And then we continue to manage, you know, remarkably through COVID, through the civil unrest that's happening. I just hats off and thank all of you that are playing a part in helping to manage our expenses, helping to manage our billing, keeping us on track. Certainly access to the PPP funds have made a big difference for us. Gives us an extra cushion that we would not have had, and we would have been in a much worse position. So very grateful for the efforts that went into getting all of those funds as well. And we continue to just constantly evaluate and analyze. We have to always be looking at our cash flow and our liquidity. We've got to be looking at which vendors we need to pay at what point in time. We have to be prioritizing our billing, and all of that. We're hitting on all those marks, and that's what it takes right now to get through this phase. And I have confidence that we can come out of this stronger than we were when we went into this. Just to remind you of context, we were entering what I believe was year 3 of a 4-year turnaround, and we were tracking to plan, but we were also still running a deficit. The plan called for us to be running a deficit. In other words, we were losing money still. And that is not a sustainable model. And then COVID hit and just threw everything into chaos and really took us out by the knees, really. And so we had to rally very quickly, make some decisions that were very difficult, that impacted team members that we care deeply about, and try to manage to the incoming revenue. And the team that's been doing that has been done a phenomenal job. And all along the way, we have weekly calls with the finance committee. We have regular meetings with the board. I do a weekly update with the board just to make sure that they are understanding what is happening and helping provide guidance and thinking through everything that needs to happen. And they'll continue to do that as we work our way through this. Oh, sorry, just looking for my notes here. Okay, I think that's it on the finance front. Getting into marketing and development, I had a really, really awesome interview today with John Jackson Jr. I just want to thank John for his willingness to do that. I think that literally 2 minutes before we went live, John was like, wait, this is going to be live? So pretty wild. But John, you did a phenomenal job. And I am using these interviews now to do a couple things, especially this month. This month is LGBTQIA month, and we are really excited to be raising awareness and to be affirming that community. And we want to be highlighting programs that support individuals that are from that community. And so one of the reasons I wanted to talk to John was because of the Oasis program. And we made sure to highlight during the interview that, and this is something that you all may not be aware, or some people may know or not know, but 40% of homeless youth are LGBTQ. And that puts them at an incredibly high risk of sexual exploitation as well as violent acts. They often get pushed into situations of trading sex for a place to stay, getting taken advantage of. It's a terrible situation. And that's also one of the reasons why that group is at a higher percentage rate, something like 65%, I believe, of attempting suicide and versus their straight counterparts. And so it's important work that we're doing with Oasis. We have one individual in this program right now. The program literally just got off the ground and then COVID hit. So it got pressed pause on. We have one participant in, and we have 2 more in the pipeline so far with more to come. And these are youth that are 18 to 24. They've either kind of aged out of the foster care system, or they've been homeless, or they were at risk of homelessness. This is an exciting program because it is changing. It's going to change lives. That's the reality of it. And it's going to keep people safe. And it's going to give them an opportunity to stabilize, get the supports they need, and be able to live their best life. And so this program is happening here in DC. I wanted to make sure to highlight it. In celebration of LGBTQ month, we also are, next week, I've got Alex Roberts from HR in the pipeline for an interview. Very excited to talk with him. And then also excited to talk to Quadria Johnson in a couple weeks as well. So both of those individuals, we love them to death. They both have volunteered to share their story about work, why they work at St. John's, to share their perspectives on life. And we're excited. I think it's going to raise our collective learning. That's another reason why I wanted to talk to John today, because after his comments at the town hall last week, with the civil unrest that's happening, with the calls, the righteous calls for justice and for change happening, I want to use our platform together to elevate voices and to call for change and to be advocates for change, right? We say we're advocates for all. So this month we have a unique opportunity to really highlight some things that need awareness and need greater change. And so again, if you haven't seen John's interview, please go on Facebook and check it out. He did a phenomenal job. Give it some love, share it, like it, get it out there. Let the world understand what we are about and hear his wisdom. It's tremendous. Sorry. Also, some of you by now hopefully have seen the new logo on Facebook in celebration of LGBTQ month, as well as the new signature lines that are available if you want to use them. Ryan did a phenomenal job with the graphic design of those. So again, there are instructions. Ryan will send them out again by email on how to change your logo and or how to change your signature line if that's something that you want to do in showing your support and affirmation. Feel free to do that, but it's exciting to see. And there will be more resources rolling out. Just as we provided resources for mental health awareness during the month of May, we're going to be providing resources relative to LGBTQ, and those will be educational. They may be access to research, whatever it might be. So those will be coming out over the next few weeks during these meetings and in our other channels as well. But really excited for that. And then our campaign is still going. Our hashtag Giving Tuesday Now was supposed to run through the 5th, which is today. And good news, we have raised so far $37,500, which is remarkable. We honestly pressed pause on the campaign this week for the most part, just because of all the other events and the civil unrest happening around us. We felt that it would have been tone deaf for us to be out there still pushing our campaign and trying to raise money, even though we absolutely need the resources, and even though we've been impacted by coronavirus, and certainly we want to support our frontline workers. That none of those desires or realities have gone away, but we really felt that we needed to give space at this point in time in order to, properly engage with the events around us. And so the team is meeting, and at some point in time in the near future, could be as early as next week, we will be kind of starting to bring about those asks and extending the campaign and the 2-to-1 match. So we just have pressed pause and suspended for now. Certainly any donations given during this time still count towards the 2-to-1 match. So if that's something that a friend has asked you or something that you're looking to do, yes, that is still fully in force, and we will extend the 2-to-1 match. So more to come on that. And again, you all have been amazing. Just with how you've liked, with how you have shared, with how you've engaged on social media and shared your story, which is tremendous. Please keep doing that. Now more than ever, it's really, really important. We have definitely seen a higher level of engagement on our social media than ever before. And you are leading that effort. You are our best ambassadors, and we just are thanking you for that. And keep it going. Keep being our brand and being out there and sharing your story about why St. John's matters to you. Let's just press pause there. And are there any staff questions before we get into the last section of our time together? Any staff questions? Feel free to put them in chat, or you could take yourself off mic and ask them. Okay, so there was a question that came in from Lulu Juju, on YouTube. Okay, there's a couple questions. Good. Thanks for. Sorry, I wasn't sure if I was on mute. Couple questions have come in. So on YouTube, happy Friday team. Thanks for all the information that's been given. My questions and concerns are answered. Question though, when will the 12 to 12 shift be in effect? Might have missed that part. So is the question, I think I can answer it. So some locations are on 12 to 12 shifts and will continue to be until local guidance changes. They tend to be clustered around residences where you've got higher risk individuals living and where they might be more medically fragile. So, so for now, it's really the best course is to talk to your supervisors and managers in your location to fully understand kind of when and if that situation or that shift schedule will change. I promise you this, your managers and leaders want that to change as quickly as it's safely to do so. Because we know that it's challenging for individuals, for our team members. But the reality is, if we have people that are at higher risk, we may have to stay in that for some period of time. I think it's substantial progress to even have gone from sheltering in place in DC to 12 on, 12 off shifts. I mean, so the number of homes that we've been able to move into that. The next phase will look different, obviously, from a shift standpoint, but we have to really, again, look at local guidance from health officials and funders. Funders are rolling out different perspectives in the different states, and it's all based on what the context is in their state. So, and in their location in some situations. So thank you for your patience. And I would say keep asking your supervisor for the latest. Another question, is this flat pay for everyone or just for those that work with individuals affected with COVID-19? No, it is, okay, I'm gonna try to correctly answer this and Rich can jump in if I'm wrong. But it is flat pay for every employee that is provides direct service in the states of Tennessee, Virginia, and DC. Okay. And so if you provide direct service, then and you're in one of those jurisdictions, that flat pay is what you will see. And again, I want to stress this. This was merely an 11th hour stopgap decision. Rich literally called me an hour before this had to be uploaded into ADP. And we discussed, because with the legislation changing so dramatically, but not going into effect yet, the decision was either don't do anything or do something flat rate. This is us wanting to acknowledge that we understand that people have been at risk, that people have done extra during this period, but it is only a start. And once the legislation is signed, then we will obviously do a deep dive on it and we will redo our calculation, and then it will look different, and we will communicate that and we will roll that out as quickly as possible. And so let me say this too, what happens if by the next paycheck, when this decision is be made, the legislation hasn't been signed yet, then we will probably do another flat rate across the board kind of payment, okay? We are just doing our best to try to get this into your paychecks as soon as possible in some way, shape, or form, but more detailed calculations have to be made and the rate will look different, okay? And again, I want to reinforce to our friends and team members in Delaware and New York, we're not forgetting about you. We are absolutely not forgetting about you. There's restrictions on how you can use, how and where you can use the PPP funds based on the loan. And so we needed another solution for your locations, and we have the plan. We just need the funds to drop. And so once they do, then we will be on our way to acknowledging your efforts as well, and being able to pay the hazard pay. So more detailed instructions to come out on that. Rich, feel free if you feel that you need to add anything to that or want to add anything, please by all means feel free to do so.
Hi, Alan, this is Rich. No, you covered it. Sorry for that last minute call yesterday, but appreciate the fact we were able to do something. We will, Sherry and Beverly and I will probably be meeting early next week. George will probably be involved in that too. Try to base a few different calculations on what we think the legislation is going to be, what will happen if it doesn't pass. So we're hopefully going to hit the variables and be able to turn that back over to Alan for some final decisions by the end of next week, so we don't have to rush around.
Cool, thank you, Rich. Other question here is, when do you expect the DC Day program to reopen? I do not know. Again, a lot of that, there's a lot of analysis that has to happen. There's a lot of local guidance that we've got to look at. Discussions are ongoing though, they are happening. And so responses will come sooner versus later. I believe that we're in the last phase of making some of those decisions. And once we have made them, we'll be able to come to you and communicate those. But I don't have a declarative answer for you at this point in time. Any final questions? All right, well, I mean, feel free to obviously throw any more in there while we're wrapping up here. And again, feel free to reach out in other channels too. I understand sometimes people have confidential questions. They don't want to put them in the chat, totally appropriate. Feel free to reach out in other means.
Alan, do you mind?
Yeah, go ahead, Rich. Please.
I'm sorry, I apologize. Something that came up today that one of the staff had reached out to us about is about some of the FSA style things, you know, benefits towards childcare or even transportation that have really changed because of COVID-19. Alex and Ro and I are trying to work with the benefits managers to try to create a path that's fair. There has been a conversation about rollover, but there's also limits on that rollover. So we're really trying to understand what they are and create a path so that nobody loses any money. Obviously, there hasn't been the same realities of childcare or transportation costs, but people are setting aside funding. So we're aware of that, really appreciate people bringing that up. We're trying to define the path, and we'll let people know if it means turning these plans off so you're not accruing more money than you can roll over. And we'll get back to you soon.
Okay, thank you, Rich. As Rich is kind of communicating, you all are getting the sense this is a moving target. There's a lot of pieces to benefits, a lot of pieces to kind of the hazard pay, and so we're working through them all. I saw a couple other questions that I don't know if we specifically answered, so I want to try to just, what will be the rate? I don't know what the future rate will be. I know that the rate that I signed off on for coming out right now is a $200 flat bonus essentially rate. And again, this is kind of stopgap, step one, and it was a starting place. We know people have been working in this environment for a number of weeks now, and so we did not want to delay. This was basically get something into your paycheck to reflect some level, like that we acknowledge that we got to do something, and we are working on that. What will the rate be during the crisis, after the crisis? I don't know that either. That's all still has to be figured out. So again, these rates can be used for PPP for 24 weeks in theory once the legislation goes into effect. So it will be, I believe, in and around the equivalent of that time. But again, these are not finalized decisions. So we still have to get the legislation, and then we've got to review it, and then we need to make decisions. I do promise we will communicate as soon as we've made those decisions and are able to effectively communicate accurately. Can you throw some light on the flat rate hazard pay? Do we get hazard for the previous months as well? Hazard for the previous month? It's basically what we are able to do, okay, is the best way, is the government, right now, the government said you have 8 weeks to use this money for this purpose. So, and it's from the point that you receive the funds. Now, in our situation, we received the funds, but we weren't able to access the funds. So the bank has to allow us to either extend our 8-week time period, or we have to essentially do some sort of what's the word, proportional pay, like to either account for the retro component of this. But it's all within the confined time period of the use of the funds. So it's less about the period of COVID and more about the time framed in which you are allowed to use the funds that the government outlines. So that's what the driver is. And that's why the legislation really matters, because there's a big difference between how much we can use if it's 8 weeks and how much we can use if it's 24 weeks. Okay, so just to try to answer that and give a little light to that. And then last question I see up here on YouTube is, when do you start looking at your health benefits to change things or not change things? That process started probably, I'd say December, January. We started having those conversations, and then it gets into, you know, usually some cadence on a monthly basis with our brokers talking about those things. So those decisions have pretty much all been made at this point in time. Next week, what we'll do is a special deeper dive on some of the health benefits and the things that we've done, or some of the changes that we've made. Where possible, we've tried to make improvements to the health plan. I feel like we have really good brokers that walk us through and provide high level analysis and help us make good decisions. So we do regularly think about looking. We always review. It's reviewed on an annual basis. I just received another question privately about changing the health plan. We think about changing the health plan every year. In fact, it does change every year in some capacity. There's always financial constraints on it. It's an expensive. It's one of the most expensive things that we have at St. John's as an organization. Everyone knows healthcare is expensive. You all experience that. We all experience that on a day-to-day basis. And we have made some changes, and you'll see some of those as you go through the open enrollment. Those changes will be explained to you. The benefits will be explained to you. But yeah, it gets reviewed on an annual basis. Everything from the carriers that we use to the types of coverage that's offered. All of that gets reviewed on an annual basis.
Alan, do you mind if I jump in for a second?
Feel free.
Sorry. I just wanted to add the one thing I don't know that we've done well, at least in my time here, is really check in with staff effectively about what the benefits are that they value most. One of the things I am hoping to do over the next month is work with George on putting out some type of survey just to really hear from the team about what works about the benefits, what are the costs that they're looking for, what are the benefits that matter most, and really try to take that into next year's round of benefit planning. So that is on the agenda and something, an area I think we can improve in HR.
Yeah, I totally agree. Thank you so much for that, Rich. Appreciate that. Yeah, I think, I hope that you see improvements happening across the whole organization. I think right now there's a big focus on HR. And I think some really good things are happening. I just want to thank the state office managers who work with the HR team. I want to thank the HR team and Rich. I think you all are rowing in the right direction together, and you're making headway. But you're talking about years of things that haven't been reviewed, haven't been changed, haven't been updated. You've had a lot of different turnover at different roles over the last number of years that all impacts things. And so, it takes time to make some of these changes. But Rich's point of really trying to connect with you all as employees and team members and hear from you what matters and what you value, we need to do a better job of, and we certainly will in the days, weeks, and months ahead. Okay, so not seeing any other questions right now. That's fine. I'm going to get into what are my 2 fucks to give for this week. And I just want to first acknowledge what I thought was just a powerful time last Friday. And I want to thank everyone that was vulnerable and shared their perspective, their fears, their experiences. That was just incredible. And I think as a community in this environment, it was a humbling moment for myself, and one I was really honored to be part of, and that I learned a tremendous amount from. And I was serious last week when I want that to be the start of our dialogue and the start of change and greater advocacy, and the right kind of advocacy. So just again, thank you to all that participated in that, and really appreciate that. So in thinking for this week, one of the things that I did was I went with George on Wednesday, and we went downtown here in DC to attend at the time what was announced as a vigil where the protests were happening. So I had been asking myself, I've been feeling like a stirring in myself. I want to go and be part of this. There is a fear of COVID for sure. But I want in some way, shape, or form to feel present and to contribute in some small way. And I wanted to be there, and George was feeling that too. And we saw an announcement that the Episcopal Church had put out about St. John's hosting, essentially outside of St. John's Church, hosting a prayer vigil. And so George and I were like, hey, let's go to this. And so we went down, and it was a really, really powerful experience on a couple different fronts. First, I was shocked and appalled and frankly scared at times by the show of force that was there. of federal officials and authorities, federal law enforcement authorities. So everything from the military police to the National Guard to Secret Service to special ops guys that looked very hardened and battle ready, and had formed a perimeter all the way around St. John's Church. And so if you remember Monday, they took over the square very violently and pushed protesters that were peaceful out. And the Lafayette Park, which is right across from the White House and right across from the church, so it's in the middle between those two, is federal property from what I understand, and basically the National Park Service manages that. Well, they had blocked that off, I think, Monday night going into Tuesday. And so now protesters weren't able to get into the park. But when we got down there, now they had come onto the streets of DC and they had put a perimeter around the church. And it really essentially was preventing this prayer vigil from taking place. And so you had hundreds of protesters in this little block. And then you had dozens of clergy people and individuals that were there, people representing the clergy, and they were essentially faced off across from this wall of security, and it was sad to see, to be honest, that part of it. It was eye-opening. It I think speaks to kind of the perspective that unfortunately our president has right now, and what I did walk away from, we spent some time kneeling, we spent some time calling out as a crowd in chants. It was the show of solidarity that we were able to experience was incredible. It was really powerful to be there in that moment and to feel that we were part of a movement and part of change, calling for change, hoping for change, hoping to work towards change, and certainly wanting it. And and it was an honor to be there, even in a small capacity, to participate. And I was blown away by the leaders that were clearly there, that were able to rally the demonstrators and the protesters in a peaceful way to call out appropriate action that needed to be taken. And it's interesting. So I have a group of college buddies that I went to school with, and at some point in time, we all lived together in different times, and there's 10 of us, and we have this email thread that is ongoing. We do this weekly happy hour virtually that we connect and talk, and if you can get on there, great. If you can't, that's fine. Catch it the next time. And I see in my friends what I think I see in a lot of white people right now, which is what do we do? Like, how can we help? There's I think an honest desire to be part of the solution. There's an honest desire to help and see change happen. And the question is, there's the questions of how do we do that? What does that look like? What is our role in that? And that's why I thought listening last Friday was so important, and continuing to listen is so important, so that we can hear from people who have been fighting this fight for so long, here's effective ways for you to get involved. And as an organization, I really want us to be really thoughtful about how we get involved. But I was thinking, just for myself and those I might represent, what does it look like? And so that night, Wednesday night, I took some time, and I just took some time to reflect, and I kind of wrote some thoughts that I want to kind of share with you. So I wouldn't call this a poem. I certainly wouldn't say I'm poetic, but it was really kind of reflections from my heart of how, just where I am at and what I hope I can do, and then what I hope as an organization, we can do. So let me just read that for you now. So I want to be known as an ally. In Jesus' day, I think it would be a neighbor, loving yourself as others. But today, I believe it would be an ally. In this life, and when I pass, I hope people know and remember me, not just as a friend or loved one, but as an ally, someone who listens, empathizes, and stands with you when you need it most. I have not been perfect in this. I have a lot to learn on so many fronts. I'm sorry for that, but I am hopeful in and thankful for the grace of time, because that is what I have left to effect change in myself and the system that oppresses my neighbors. Time still ahead of me to listen, to learn, time still ahead to support and follow, time to raise my voice, time to stand by you, take action, time to advocate for change in policy, inequity, and equality. And, you know, as I think about that, as it relates to myself, and then I think about it as it relates to us as an organization, our history has been in advocacy and equal rights for others, particularly focused mostly with people with disabilities. And we have certainly moved the needle there over the decades that we have been involved in doing that work. It's been tremendous to see. And I think that we are in a special moment right now where I think we are starting to have another awakening, if you will, or we're evolving. We're certainly growing and trying to grow to the next level to truly be what our mission states and is about, which is advocates for all. And as I think about the word ally, you know, you think about this month right now with LGBTQ, and you think about what's happening right now with the civil unrest. And the word ally is so prevalent right now. You're hearing it certainly in those circles and conversations. And, you know, organizationally, my heart is for us that we would identify as an organization that advocates, but that we would identify as allies in that process. And so to that end, I talked to the leadership team this week about a new initiative for us to strengthen and expand our inclusion and diversity efforts. And what I want to do is I want to get volunteers from across the organization that are representative of the different groups that we should be advocating for, that are representative of our team members essentially, and the communities that we all come from. And I would like them to come together for periods of time and to help think through, both externally and internally as an organization, how can we learn, how can we understand, how can we empathize, and then how can we call for change, work for change, and also make change as an organization. I understand that there are changes that we probably need to make internally as an organization. And if we're going to call for changes externally, then we need to be consistent and do our best to examine and look at what we can change as well internally. I have no idea what all those things are right now. Again, I think it's incumbent on us to listen first and then get into thoughtful conversations and thoughtful discussions, and then make change. But that is the initiative that I see being a really important part of our future in moving forward. And as Kwaku says, making sure that our touch matches with our talk. And so, I am asking you all to help with that. And I don't even know how many people will be involved in this kind of steering group. I don't even want to call it a steering group. I don't want to call it a committee, because I think those things can have bad connotations. But first, I'm asking for volunteers. And I would ask that if you're interested in being part of this discussion and this dialogue and on helping advance change, please let us know. Reach out to me directly through my email. You can reach out to HR directly. I don't even know where this will live in the organization, but I know it's an initiative that we have to take on. And I don't even know how many volunteers initially we will have involved in this, but I think that we are going to be asking broadly at some point in time for organizational involvement. So, and probably the best thing, and Ryan, if you would put my email in there, that's probably the best way to let me know that you're interested. And that way we can follow up with you and we'll figure out what that looks like. Okay. But yeah, so that's my call to action to you is I said last week that I did not want that to be the only discussion we ever have on that topic and on the civil unrest and the racial injustice that's happening right now. I really wanted it to be a catalyst for us to grow. And so please help us do that and get better at being allies to the people that we serve and support, to pockets of the community that maybe we aren't engaged with the way we should be or could be. And certainly with our team members and our SJCS family who have different perspectives and live different lives and different experiences, than the rest of us. Like, let's really be about inclusion. Let's really be about diversity, and let's really be about strengthening, expanding those efforts in the time to come. So I'll just pause there. That's kind of what I had for the agenda. And let me just open it up first. If anyone has any comments, again, ground rules here, I would say you can either raise your hand, I see that, or you could take yourself off mute. If you hear someone else speaking, please put yourself back on mute. Certainly if you've got background noise, if you can limit that, that'd be great. But I'll stop talking and I'll just open up the floor.
Hi, my name is Andrea, and I'm willing to volunteer for the thing you just said. And I work for the Life Options Program.
Cool. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, so I'll hang out here for a few minutes for anyone that wants to chat. And if you have any other questions, you can either take yourself off the mic and ask. You can put them in the chat. Really want to thank you all for attending today. Hope that this is the start of either a good shift that you're about to work, a good work week, or a great weekend. So thank you for all that you're doing in our communities. Thank you for being amazing ambassadors. Look forward to connecting with you all next Friday.
Hi, Alan. Hi, this is Sean Montgomery, a residential team leader in DC. I have a question.
Yes.
I heard you say something similar to the fact of we're opening up and we're allowing the staff to have their leave. They can use their leave now. As an RTL, I know that we have some issues that may arise with everyone trying to put in their leave requests at the same time and everyone wanting to go after all that we've been through with this COVID-19 and people putting it all in, they really want to take a break. So how do we go about that? Is it from location to location? Because if we get swamped with that, then we're gonna be short staffed.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
Yeah, no, it's a great question, and it's the right concern. And I think, as I said earlier, it's going to have to be managed location by location based on local guidance and capacity. And you're going to probably have to huddle with other managers. You might have to kind of, and missing the word, I want to say stair step, but the reality is not everyone can go out at the same time. There's just limitations and constraints, right? And so you're going to have to manage those and communicate those. And the best thing I know to do, and I'm trying to model this, is be transparent and share with people, listen, I will do my best to kind of meet where you are and what your need might be, but the reality is I might not be able to grant what you're asking. So we'll help you with that by putting out broader communications to that end. hopefully taking some of that pressure off of you. I know in the end you still have to make those decisions with your managers and your team members, but that's the best way I know. Like stagger is the word I was looking for. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank
Yep.
you.
Yep. Thank you, Tony. Thank you for that. Thank you for the compliments, guys. I do appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah, totally unnecessary, but I do appreciate that support. So, and the feedback. Any other questions or comments? I really love the level of engagement and the questions, like so many questions today. That was excellent. Thank you for being willing to put those out there. Because if you're asking or thinking about the question, someone else is too. So thank you for putting it in the chat or asking. Well, I'll hang out for a couple more minutes. We're officially adjourned. I'm gonna stop live streaming and hope you all have a great